What happens when an undercover CEO walks into his own company and discovers corruption running deeper than he ever imagined? This isn't just a management test, it's a battle for the soul of the business. When a CEO disguises himself as an entry-level worker, he uncovers dishonest sales tactics, toxic leadership, and employees struggling under bad management. But when he finally reveals who he is, will justice be served, or will greed and deception fight back? Stay tuned as we dive into this shocking story of power, betrayal, and redemption. Nathan Cole had built ColeTech Electronics from the ground up, turning a small gadget repair shop into a thriving chain of high-end electronics retail stores. Over the years, as the company expanded to multiple locations, Nathan found himself increasingly caught up in board meetings, strategic planning, and corporate logistics. He had once been deeply involved in the daily operations, personally ensuring that every store reflected the values of honest salesmanship and superior customer service. But lately, something felt off. Customer complaints were piling up, more than usual. Negative online reviews accused employees of being pushy, dishonest, and inattentive. Some customers even reported feeling pressured into buying extended warranties and service plans they didn't need. A few emails landed directly in Nathan's inbox, describing poor service, rude staff, and misleading sales tactics. He tried addressing these concerns with his regional managers, but their responses were always the same. "We're handling it," or "it's just a misunderstanding." Yet the complaints kept coming. One store in particular stood out, ColeTech Rivertown. The complaints about this branch were far worse than the others. Customers described long wait times, inattentive staff, and high-pressure sales tricks that felt borderline unethical. It was one of the newer locations, but its reputation was already in free fall. Nathan knew he couldn't ignore it any longer. If he simply showed up as himself, however, it wouldn't give him the real picture. Employees would put on their best behavior if they knew the CEO was watching. He needed to see the truth firsthand, uncensored and unfiltered. That's when he made a bold decision. He would go undercover. Nathan consulted with his assistant and came up with a plan. He would disguise himself as a job applicant for an entry-level warehouse assistant position at the Rivertown store. He let his beard grow out, swapped his usual tailored suits for a hoodie, worn-out jeans and scuffed sneakers, and ditched his expensive watch and sleek haircut. To complete the disguise, he adopted a different name, Nick Parker, and created a simple backstory, a middle-aged man with a background in warehouse work, looking for steady employment. With his plan in place, Nathan took a deep breath. If the company he built was rotting from the inside, he needed to see it with his own eyes, before it was too late. Nathan Cole had spent years perfecting the image of a sharp, confident CEO, always dressed in crisp suits, wearing a signature luxury watch, and speaking with the assurance of a man who built his empire from scratch. But now, none of that could come with him. If he wanted to truly understand what was happening inside ColeTech Rivertown, he had to become someone else. Over the next few days, Nathan transformed his appearance. He let his beard grow out, exchanged his tailored wardrobe for a worn-out hoodie, faded jeans, and an old pair of sneakers. He ditched his expensive watch and instead wore a cheap, scratched-up digital one. To complete the look, he unraveled his usually neat hair, letting it look messy and unkempt, and even added thick-rimmed glasses to alter his face. He looked nothing like a CEO now, just another middle-aged guy trying to make ends meet. His new identity was Nick Parker, a warehouse worker with a patchy job history, looking for a stable position. He even created a fake resume, listing previous experience in stockrooms and manual labor. His backstory? A former delivery driver who had been laid off and was now looking for steady work. He memorized his cover story, knowing that if he slipped up, it could blow the entire operation. On the morning of his job interview, Nick, took a deep breath and walked into ColeTech Rivertown. The moment he stepped through the doors, he could feel something was off. Unlike the polished, professional environment he had envisioned for all his stores, this location felt chaotic and unprofessional. Loud music blasted from a speaker near the checkout counter, and several employees were huddled near the front desk, chatting and laughing loudly, oblivious to the few customers waiting for assistance. The air felt stagnant, a mix of overheated electronics and apathy. Nathan stood at the entrance for nearly 2 full minutes, completely ignored, before a receptionist lazily glanced up from her phone and mumbled, can I help you?" "Yes," Nathan said, keeping his voice steady. "I'm here about the warehouse assistant job." The receptionist shrugged, barely interested, and waved toward the back. "Manager's office is down the hall." Nathan nodded and walked forward. If this first impression was any indicator, he knew he was about to uncover far worse things inside. Nathan walked down the narrow hallway toward the store manager's office, passing by stacks of disorganized boxes and loose cables strewn along the floor. The further he went, the more the unprofessional atmosphere became apparent. Employees stood around, chatting, ignoring customers, and a lingering smell of stale coffee filled the air. He reached the office door, which was slightly ajar, and knocked. Inside sat Jack Donovan, the store manager, a broad-shouldered man in his early 50s with thinning gray hair and a permanent scowl. His cluttered desk was piled high with papers, an energy drink can tipped over near his keyboard, and a half-eaten sandwich left forgotten next to a stack of invoices. He barely glanced up when Nathan stepped inside. "You the guy for the warehouse job?" Jack asked, not bothering with introductions. His voice was rough, impatient, as if this entire interaction was already an inconvenience. "Yes, sir, name's Nick Parker," Nathan replied, keeping his tone casual. He handed over his fake resume, which Jack barely skimmed before tossing it onto his desk. "Warehouse work's easy," Jack muttered, leaning back in his chair. "Move boxes, unload shipments, keep the stockroom from turning into a damn jungle. You good with that?" Nathan nodded. "Yeah, I've done similar work before." Jack finally looked up, studying Nathan with a mix of boredom and mild suspicion. "You don't ask stupid questions, do you? I don't have time to babysit." Nathan shook his head. "No, sir, just here to work." Jack grunted, seemingly satisfied. "Good. You start now. Logan, one of the stock guys, will show you around." Nathan was about to leave when Jack added, "Oh, and stay out of the sales team's way. They're the ones keeping this place running." That last comment immediately set off alarm bells in Nathan's mind. It wasn't just a typical let the salespeople do their job kind of statement. Jack's tone carried an edge, almost like a warning. It reinforced what Nathan suspected. Something was deeply wrong with how this store operated. Without another word, Nathan nodded and exited the office. As he walked toward the stockroom, he knew this job wasn't just about lifting boxes. It was about uncovering the truth. Nathan followed Logan, a wiry man in his mid-30s with perpetual dark circles under his eyes, into the stockroom. The back area was a mess. Half-empty boxes stacked haphazardly, dust-covered shelves, and an old clipboard hanging from a rusty nail with an outdated inventory sheet. As Logan handed Nathan a company-issued vest, he sighed, shaking his head. "Welcome to the dungeon," he muttered. "Hope you don't mind lifting more than what's in the job description. They'll have you doing everything but getting a commission." Nathan nodded, slipping on the vest and glancing through the doorway into the main showroom. Within minutes, he started noticing disturbing patterns. Customers stood idly near the displays looking around for assistance. But the sales team wasn't in a rush to help them. Instead, 3 salespeople were huddled by the register laughing at a video on one of their phones. A couple near the laptop section kept glancing around nervously, waiting for someone to acknowledge them. One of them finally approached the counter hesitantly, only to be met with an exasperated sigh from one of the salesmen. "Yeah, what do you need?" the employee asked flatly. Meanwhile, Nathan spotted a young woman in a crisp ColeTech uniform actually assisting a customer. She smiled warmly, answering the older man's questions about different phone models, offering genuine suggestions instead of pushing high-end products. This was clearly not the norm, and Nathan made a mental note of her name tag. Mia. Just as he was taking in the store's toxic atmosphere, Logan nudged him. "You'll figure it out soon enough," Logan said, noticing Nathan's concerned expression. "Jack doesn't care about customer service. He only cares about the sales reports. If a customer isn't throwing money down on the spot, they're not worth the time." Nathan frowned, but kept silent. He needed to see more. His chance came moments later when he overheard Rick, a tall, sharp-dressed salesman, pushing an unnecessary mandatory service plan onto a hesitant customer. "Look, this service package is required," Rick insisted, pointing at a printed contract. "It's company policy for financing. If you don't get it now, you'll have issues down the road. Nathan knew that was a complete lie. The service plan was optional, but the customer, an overwhelmed father buying a laptop for his teenage daughter, didn't know that. As Nathan clenched his jaw, forcing himself to remain an observer, he realized just how deep the deception ran in this store. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a business model built on dishonesty. Nathan had seen enough to confirm his suspicions. ColeTech Rivertown wasn't just poorly managed, it was actively exploiting customers. But nothing prepared him for the moment he saw a blatant scam happening right in front of him. A woman in her early 30s, dressed in a modest jacket with a worn-out purse slung over her shoulder, approached Rick's sales counter. She had a worried look, gripping a piece of paper as she spoke softly. Beside her, a young boy, probably her son, fidgeted excitedly, glancing at the tablets on display. "I just need a basic tablet," she said, carefully unfolding a printout of a budget model she had researched. "Something affordable for my son's schoolwork." Nathan stepped a little closer, pretending to reorganize a stack of promotional flyers nearby while listening in. Rick, with his practiced salesman's smile, barely glanced at the paper. "Oh, those models are out of stock," he said smoothly, despite the fact that Nathan had seen a stack of them in the stockroom that morning. "But I can get you a great deal on this one. It's the upgraded version." He pointed at a far more expensive tablet. The woman hesitated. "I really just need something simple, and I saw online that the one I wanted is available here." Rick didn't waver. "The system must be outdated. Trust me, for just a little more, this one will last way longer. Plus, if you're financing, you have to get the premium bundle." Nathan stiffened. That was a lie. Financing had zero requirements for extra add-ons. Yet Rick was pushing her into buying a bundle with accessories and an extended service plan that would nearly double the cost. The woman's face fell. I wasn't planning on spending that much." Rick leaned in slightly, voice lowering. "Look, if you wait, the price could go up. These deals don't last, and once this batch is gone, you'll have to pay full price later." Nathan's hands curled into fists. He had seen enough. This wasn't just a pushy salesman. This was intentional deception, preying on someone's financial limitations. Before the woman could sign anything, Nathan stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said, his voice firm but even. Rick barely looked at him before snapping, "Stock guys shouldn't interrupt sales, buddy. Go stack something." Nathan ignored him and turned to the woman. "Ma'am, you don't have to buy the bundle. The tablet you wanted is in stock, and the financing doesn't require any extras." The woman's eyes widened in surprise, then relief. But Rick's smile vanished instantly, replaced with thinly veiled rage. Nathan braced himself for what came next. Because now, he wasn't just observing, he was interfering. Nathan barely had time to register Rick's furious glare before he heard a voice boom across the showroom. What the hell is going on here? Nathan turned to see Jack Donovan storming toward them, his expression twisted in irritation. His heavy steps sent a clear message. He wasn't just investigating the commotion, he was about to put someone in their place. Rick wasted no time pointing at Nathan. "This guy's screwing up my sale," he snapped. "He told my customer she didn't need the premium bundle." Jack's gaze snapped to Nathan, his jaw tightening. "Nick, wasn't it?" His voice was dangerously low. "Come with me. Now." Nathan followed Jack toward the manager's office, keeping his face neutral. He couldn't blow his cover yet, not before he gathered more proof of how deep the problem ran. Once inside, Jack slammed the door shut and rounded on him. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Nathan met his glare calmly. "I was just making sure the customer got the correct information." Jack scoffed, pacing behind his desk. "Correct information?" He let out a short, humorless laugh. "Listen, kid, you've been here, what, a day? You don't know how this place works. We don't have time to babysit penny pinchers. If they aren't willing to pay, we move on to someone who is." Nathan stayed silent, letting Jack dig his own grave. Jack leaned forward, resting his fists on his desk. "I don't know what your deal is, but let me make one thing clear. You don't interfere with sales. That's rule number one. I don't care if the customer walks out broke, as long as they walk out with a receipt." Got it? Nathan's jaw tightened. He could feel his patience wearing dangerously thin, but he had to stay undercover just a little longer. He nodded once, understood. Jack studied him for a moment, as if debating whether to push further. Then he jabbed a finger toward the door. Good. Now, get out of my office and stay out of the way of my sales team. Nathan left without another word, but his mind was racing. This wasn't just one rogue salesman. This entire culture of lying and manipulation came from the top. Jack wasn't just allowing the behavior, he was encouraging it. And soon, Nathan was going to bring it all crashing down. After his confrontation with Jack, Nathan needed to gather more insight, but this time from someone who wasn't part of the problem. He had already noticed that one employee didn't fit in with the rest. Mia, the only salesperson who seemed to genuinely care about customers. If there was anyone who could give him an honest perspective, it was her. Later that day, during a rare lull in the store's chaos, Nathan found Mia in the break room, stirring a cup of coffee. She looked up when he entered, offering a polite but tired smile. Hey, he said, keeping his tone casual. You're Mia, right? She nodded. And you're Nick, the stock guy who pissed off Rick. Nathan chuckled. That obvious? She smirked, but then sighed, shaking her head. Honestly, I'm surprised you lasted this long without getting chewed out. Jack doesn't like people questioning how things are done here. Nathan leaned against the counter. Yeah, I got that impression. But not everyone here is like Rick and Jack, right? Mia hesitated for a second before shrugging. Most of them just go along with it, some because they like the commission, others because they're afraid to lose their jobs. I guess I'm just too stubborn to fall in line. Nathan studied her. She was sharp, thoughtful, and clearly frustrated with the store's toxic culture. He could tell she had integrity, but she also seemed defeated, like someone who had given up trying to change things. If you hate it so much, why stay? Nathan asked. Mia exhaled, looking down at her coffee. Believe me, I've thought about leaving, but I actually like helping people. I just hate how this place operates, the way they treat customers, how they pressure us to hit numbers instead of doing what's right. It's exhausting. Nathan nodded, filing away her words. Mia was exactly the kind of employee this company needed more of. What if things could change? He asked carefully. She let out a small laugh. Then I'd finally believe in miracles. Nathan smiled. She had no idea that change was coming sooner than she thought. Nathan had seen enough. The pressure tactics, deception, and utter disregard for customer trust weren't isolated incidents. This was the culture of the store, cultivated from the top down. Jack's leadership had turned ColeTech Rivertown into a place where profit mattered more than people, and Nathan knew he couldn't stand by any longer. The final straw came late in the afternoon when he overheard a sales pitch that made his blood boil. Rick was talking to an elderly man, a retired veteran, who was eyeing a simple desktop computer. The man hesitated, mentioning that he was on a fixed income and needed something reliable. Oh, absolutely, sir, Rick said smoothly, but I highly recommend our VIP protection package. It's required for first-time buyers. It extends your warranty and gives you premium tech support. Nathan knew that was a lie. The package was completely optional, a useless add-on designed to squeeze hundreds of extra dollars out of unsuspecting customers. The old man looked uncertain, clutching his wallet. That was it. Nathan dropped the box he was holding and stepped forward, voice firm. Actually, that's not true. Rick whipped around, his usual smirk faltering. What? Nathan faced the customer directly, keeping his voice calm but unwavering. Sir, you don't need the VIP package. It's optional. The computer you're looking at already comes with a standard manufacturer's warranty. The old man blinked in surprise, his hand hesitating over his wallet. Rick, on the other hand, looked like he was about to explode. You again? He snapped, voice dripping with frustration. You're a damn stock guy. Why do you keep screwing with my sales? Before Nathan could respond, another voice cut through the tension like a blade. What the hell is going on now? Jack had arrived, his face red with irritation, his eyes locking on to Nathan like a predator sizing up its prey. Rick immediately pointed at him. This guy won't shut up. Keeps telling customers they don't need what we're selling. Nathan took a slow breath, his hands tightening into fists at his sides. The moment had come. No more watching from the sidelines, no more playing along. Nathan lifted his chin and met Jack's furious gaze. "You know what, Jack?" he said, his voice deadly calm. "I think it's time we had a real conversation. Because I'm not just a stock guy. My name is Nathan Cole." Jack's expression froze mid-scroll. "I own this company." A stunned silence fell over the showroom. Employees who had been half listening before were now fully alert, their eyes darting between Nathan and Jack. Rick, still standing next to the elderly customer, looked like he had swallowed a brick. Jack's expression shifted from anger to disbelief, his mouth opening and closing as if trying to process what he had just heard. "You're... what?" Jack finally managed, his voice lower now, though still laced with irritation. Nathan took a step forward, his calm, authoritative presence now unmistakable. "Nathan Cole, CEO of ColeTech Electronics." He let the weight of his words settle. "I've been undercover in this store for the past week, watching how you run things. And frankly, I'm disgusted." Gasps rippled through the showroom. A few employees looked away awkwardly, others whispered to each other. Mia, standing near the customer service desk, covered her mouth in shock, but then slowly nodded, as if things finally made sense. Jack scoffed, regaining his composure. "All right, this is cute. Some corporate stunt? You think walking in here for a week makes you an expert? We're running a business, Nathan, and business means hitting numbers." Nathan's eyes hardened. "No, business means trust. It means respecting customers, not scamming them, and thanks to you, this store has the worst reputation in the entire company." He turned slightly, addressing the entire team now. "That ends today." He faced Jack again. "Effective immediately, you're on administrative leave while we conduct a full investigation." Jack's face darkened, his jaw tightening as he crossed his arms. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious," Nathan said evenly. Then, shifting his gaze to Rick, he added, "And as for you? You're fired. Pack your things and leave now." Rick's face flushed red with rage, but he didn't argue. He knew better than to push a fight with the CEO himself. Without another word, he grabbed his clipboard and stormed toward the break room. Jack, however, was still fuming, his hands clenched into fists. "This is a mistake, Cole. You need people like me." Nathan's expression was unreadable. "No, Jack. I need leaders, and you are not one." Jack let out a short, bitter laugh, shaking his head as he turned and stormed toward his office. Nathan exhaled slowly, scanning the faces of the remaining employees. The first step was done. Now it was time to rebuild. With Jack suspended and Rick gone, the toxic grip on the store was finally broken. But Nathan knew the real work was just beginning. Firing bad leaders was easy. Fixing a broken culture was much harder. He took a deep breath, then turned to address the employees who were still gathered in the showroom. "I know today has been a shock," he began, his tone firm but steady. "But let me be clear. This store is going to change. No more deception. No more treating customers like walking dollar signs. If you're here to do honest work, you have nothing to worry about. But if you think scamming people is the way to do business, this isn't the place for you." Some employees shifted uncomfortably while others, like Mia, listened intently, nodding slightly. Nathan turned toward her. "Mia, I've been watching how you treat customers. You actually listen to them. You help them find what they need instead of just pushing the most expensive product. That's the kind of leadership we need in this store." Mia's eyes widened in shock as he continued. "Effective immediately, I'm promoting you to senior sales consultant. You'll be working with me and the new store manager to rebuild this place the right way." She blinked, clearly overwhelmed. I don't know what to say." Nathan gave her a small smile. "Say yes." Mia swallowed hard, then nodded. "Yes, I won't let you down." Nathan turned back to the group. "And speaking of leadership, I've already arranged for a new manager, someone with a proven track record of running an honest, customer-focused store. She'll be here by the end of the week." That person was Sarah Mitchell, a well-respected manager from another ColeTech location known for her ability to turn struggling stores around without sacrificing integrity. Nathan had personally requested her for this role, knowing she wouldn't tolerate the kind of behavior that had run rampant here. "This isn't just about one store," Nathan continued. "This is about setting a new standard for every ColeTech location. Training will be mandatory, sales quotas will be adjusted, and most importantly, we're going to earn back our customers' trust." The room was silent for a moment. Then, to his surprise, a few employees actually clapped. Nathan felt a renewed sense of purpose. The hardest part was over. Now they could begin rebuilding. 3 weeks later, Nathan walked back into ColeTech Rivertown, this time as himself. No disguise, no undercover role, just a CEO checking in on the changes he had set in motion. He wasn't sure what to expect, but the moment he stepped inside, he could feel it. The difference was palpable. Gone was the blaring music, the chaotic atmosphere, and the sight of salespeople ignoring customers. Instead, the store felt organized, focused, and professional. Employees were actively assisting customers, engaging in real conversations instead of pushing unnecessary add-ons. At the front desk, the receptionist greeted him with a polite smile, a far cry from the indifferent treatment he had received on his first visit. Mia approached, now wearing a name tag with Senior Sales Consultant beneath her name. She carried herself with newfound confidence, a sharp contrast to the hesitant, frustrated employee he had met weeks ago. "Mr. Cole," she said with a smile, "welcome back." "It's good to be back," Nathan replied, shaking her hand. "How's everything going?" She glanced around the showroom. "Better. It's been an adjustment, but the team is responding well. Customers are noticing the difference too. Some even told me they came back because they heard things were changing." Nathan nodded, satisfied. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear." As Mia led him through the store, she pointed out some of the key improvements. The mandatory training programs had reshaped the way employees approached sales, focusing on building trust instead of pressure tactics. Sarah, the new manager, had implemented better team collaboration, ensuring employees felt supported rather than bullied into chasing quota. Nathan also spotted Logan, the stockroom employee who had once been resigned to the store's toxic culture, now more engaged and interacting with sales staff. Even Rick's old team had adjusted, some clearly struggling, but making an effort to work within the new standards. By the time he left, Nathan knew this wasn't just a temporary fix. It was the start of something lasting. The store had turned a corner, and so had ColeTech. As Nathan drove away from ColeTech Rivertown, he reflected on how much had changed in just a few short weeks. What had started as a simple investigation had turned into a wake-up call, not just for this store, but for him as a leader. He had spent too much time behind corporate walls, trusting that policies alone would uphold the values he had built his company on. But the truth was, culture wasn't shaped by policies. It was shaped by the people enforcing them. Jack and Rick had been symptoms of a larger problem, one that likely existed in other stores as well. If this could happen in Rivertown, how many other locations were following the same unethical playbook? He wasn't going to wait for another wave of customer complaints to find out. By the time he reached ColeTech headquarters, Nathan had already outlined the next steps in his mind. First, he drafted a company-wide memo detailing what had happened at Rivertown, why it wasn't acceptable, and how the company would be moving forward. He made it clear there would be no more shortcuts, no more pressure tactics, no more sacrificing trust for short-term gains. Any manager who encouraged unethical sales practices would be replaced. Next, he scheduled a virtual town hall meeting with managers and employees across all locations. He wanted to hear from them directly. If there were more stores operating like Rivertown, he needed to know now, not later. And finally, he committed to a hands-on leadership approach. Regular surprise visits, direct employee feedback loops, and a stronger emphasis on ethics and customer trust in all training programs. As he hit send on the company memo, Nathan felt something he hadn't in a long time, a renewed sense of purpose. One store had changed. Now it was time to change them all. The story of Nathan Cole's undercover journey highlights a crucial lesson. True leadership isn't about profits alone. It's about integrity, trust, and staying connected to the people who drive the business. Ignoring workplace culture allows toxicity to spread, ultimately damaging customer relationships and long-term success. By stepping into the reality of his employees and customers, Nathan realized that policies mean nothing if bad leadership undermines them. The lesson? A company's reputation is built on honesty and accountability. Ethical leadership isn't just an ideal, it's a necessity for sustained success. Fixing one store was just the beginning. Real change starts from the top.